If you can figure out what motivates you, what's your missional driver? If you figure that out, you go, oh, okay, so I need to be doing work that creates this result. Mm-hmm. Because if I'm doing that, I essentially have this magnet that is pulling me forward, and it will separate you from the pack. You will be promotable, and that's the idea. So the more I'm growing, the bigger my paycheck is getting.
Welcome to the Who You Know Show, where what you know is important, but who you know! Who you know can make all the difference in your wealth, health, business, career, and life. I'm super excited about this episode because, hey, we got a world changer in the house, but we also have our live studio audience. Let's go! And I'm super excited to introduce you again to Ken Coleman, who's dedicated his life to helping others discover their purpose and their passions. He's a nationally syndicated radio host, best-selling author, and a leading voice in personal development as part of the Dave Ramsey Network. Give me a warm Who You Know welcome for Ken frickin' Coleman. Ken, again, I appreciate you being here. Can you tell our listeners a little bit, go back, okay, tell us a little about your story, your background, and what initially inspired you to transition out of politics into broadcasting?
Yeah. Well, you know, I started working on campaign politics as a 19-year-old in college and got a chance to work on a congressional race. And it was a summer job, and I was the driver for the guy that was running for office. And you know, you're kind of his bag guy, so you're always with him. You're kind of on his hip, they call, you know, and you're just, you know, your fundraisers, you're pointing out this donor here, or you're grabbing his overnight bag. I mean, you're just a gopher and you're driving him places. Well, the great news about that role is it provides you a very intimate audience with this guy when you're driving from place to place. And you know, I was always a pretty confident young guy. But I knew my role. I kept my mouth shut most of the time. But as the summer wore on, he'd just start to vent or kind of vent his frustrations, or he'd say stuff to me in the car, and you know, the more he'd say it to me, then I started saying stuff back because he was talking to me, and he liked what I was saying. And then he started asking me questions about stuff, and I started telling him what I think we should be doing. And so at the end of the summer, he said, you know, you've really impressed me, and I want you to actually work in the campaign office. I can find another driver. I don't think I can find another you. And so he gave me another shot, a great shot to do it. So I took a semester off of school. Fast forward, I went back to school, and it's kind of like going from the battlefield to a desk office. And I never finished school because I went on another U.S. Senate race, then from that race to the governor's race, and found myself working for the governor at 22. And I didn't need the degree, so I was all in. I did that for about 2 years, and it was time to move into the private sector so I could build a real business leadership resume with the idea of running one day. And so I was working for John Maxwell. I was in leadership, had all the things, but this entire time I'm watching the political environment, and as wacky as it is now, I thought back then it was basically wasted effort. I thought I can be more effective in other places than in politics. And so that's when I began the process of going, well, what is it? Because since the time I was 16, I thought politics was the path. So it's a very unsettling
to not know where you're going to go, right? To be kind of like,
to
invest all that time into something.
I've been a one-track mind,
right?
For so long. And so now if it's not this, what is it?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And
how many of you can relate to that?
Yeah, we all can. And so it was a really tough emotional season because like everybody in this audience, I'm very much wired to do and to accomplish. Most humans are, but I've got a little extra dose of it. And so this soul craving to find my spot, to find my role, was, you know, kind of eating away at me because I was very clear it wasn't politics. What I did not know is what were the other paths, and then that's a little bit scary. I've said this before. I may have said it last time I was here, but I think the greatest fear that we have is the fear of the unknown. it is a terrifying prospect. You know, if you're in a car driving and all of a sudden a torrential downpour hits so heavy that you can't see, you know, beyond the hood of the car, what do? You stop, you pull over. It's a terrifying prospect. Have you ever been in a cave when you can't see your hand in front of your face? It's terrifying. And so, you know, fear of failure is a biggie. Fear of acceptance, or fear of rejection rather, is a biggie. But I think the fear of the unknown is the biggest. And so it paralyzed me for about 2 to 3 years. And then I came out of that funk and began to do the self-discovery, the work that I now have kind of created a methodology for it.
Right.
Back then, I was just looking for patterns and themes in my life. You know, what made my heart come alive, and why politics?
Did
what
you
were
sit
the
down
elements?
like with a pen and pad, or like talk to me about that process?
Well, that's
like,
when I fell in love with a pencil, by the way, because I was dealing with writer's block. I was trying to write stuff, and I got this neurotic thing about a clean piece of paper, and I'd write with a pen, and if I wanted to change my thought, I'd scratch through it, and it really irritated me. And so I saw a pencil in this cup on my desk, and I realized, I think if I write with the pencil, then I can just erase everything. And this is totally just a fun little thing. But I started using pencils, and now if you pay attention to my show, anytime I'm writing seriously, I'm writing with a pencil, and that is because it allows me to be free and get everything out of my head, knowing I can erase it. And it's just a little hack for me. But I bring that up because I began to just write. You know, why did I get into politics? What was the be-all, end-all? It was serving people. It was to make the world a better place, whether it be in a congressional district or my state or the nation. You start to go deep into the themes, and you go, okay, so we've got a theme going on here, and the theme is people, and I want to serve people. I grew up in a pastor's home where I saw my mom and dad model loving people of all race and creed. I mean, I had missionaries of all races staying in my home because it was a small church, so we couldn't afford
that too.
Yeah, you couldn't afford to put them in a hotel. And
my
so
house was like a homeless shelter.
100%.
No, it was.
That's a whole different level.
Yeah.
They
No,
were different missionaries.
I had Paco. Yeah. No, seriously, these are the names: Paco, Flaco, Scarface, Kilo. I had a bunch of.
Yeah.
I had Crips living in my house, drug dealers. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. But I grew up around a lot of different types of people.
Yeah.
And
so,
so it allowed me to communicate and be able to like empathize and be able to.
Yeah, I saw my mom and dad serve people.
Right.
Didn't matter what they looked like.
Right.
What they smelled like, you know. And so there was this thing in me that I adopted from them. And so as I began to trace the themes, it was I've always enjoyed being on the stage. At 5 years old, I volunteered in the kindergarten class to be the newspaper boy in the senior play. At 5.
So you like the spotlight.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, like my teacher was like, you know, it was those deals. Raise your hand if you'd like to try out to be in the high school play. And I'm like, you know, where you get your hand on your armpit and push it a little higher. I was that guy. And so you look at those themes and you go, what did it feel like? And I remember opening night. They did it 2 nights. And I remember coming out and delivering my first line. I'm 5. And I remember the audience laughing and you're 5. So you can't analyze it, but you go, that feels good. They like me. And so I went that far back. And that was a tuning fork that I can remember to this day how that felt, and I wanted more of it.
I used to run from the stage.
Yeah. Well, everybody's got their thing, right?
Like I ran, like literally I would go hide out in the bathroom.
Right.
No, I'm serious. Like I would hide.
As an adult.
I believe it.
No, as a grown adult. Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
And
I don't get it. I love the pressure.
Oh, there was this one time at a conference, and they were like, what's that one thing that you know is holding you back from going to the next level in your career, in your business, or whatever? And I wrote it down. I was like, public speaking. Like, I know I have to overcome this.
What did you do to overcome it?
You're looking at it.
How nervous are you right now? Scale of 1 to 10. Be honest.
No. At first, it goes like away. Like, I'm good now.
Yeah, but when was it and what?
No,
was
this
it?
is like fuel now. That first show was absolute terror. That first show.
Yeah, you were tight.
But I'm like 500-600 episodes in now, so like I'm good.
Sure, no, I get it.
You know what I mean? But that first episode, I'm like,
right, and that's the exposure to the fear. Well,
your comfort zone grows.
Right. But my point is what I was doing early back. I was looking back to not the moments of fear, but the moments of joy. That's where you get the clues, And so you've got to, if you look back, and I was going back and I was writing down moments of joy and moments of passion and what makes my heart move. Yeah. And so so for some of you and some of you that are listening, if you're looking for some clues on what your professional future looks like, listen to your heart. Answer these questions. What makes you angry? And I don't mean angry like your wife telling you to pick up your socks. I mean like you see something on the news, and I don't mean your freaking political party, but I'm saying you see a story or a plight, a problem in the world, and it makes you angry. What breaks your heart? What excites your heart? You begin to answer those questions, and I will tell you that I could do this in this audience with a whiteboard, and I could write down the answers to those 3 questions of any person in the room, and I can draw a thread. There's a theme that's underneath those answers. And so that's all I did, and I began to realize it was people, and it was performing, and then you throw in the ingredient of pressure. So if I can help people in a way that's performative, and I'm under pressure, ooh, baby.
Is that why you did the theater for your last summit that was here in Dallas? It was at a theater. Literally, like, it was so cool. I was like, oh, wow.
No, I just wanted a cool, intimate venue.
It was a very cool venue.
But I mean, what I do is performative. I mean, normally you think a performer, that would be, you think circus or an actor, but anybody, a musician, anybody that does anything in front of people and enjoys it, it is a performance.
Right.
And so I just went back and I was able to, I didn't say it that clearly, but I wrote it in a way that now I can look back on it. And I'm a pastor's kid, so I say everything in alliteration, so 3 Ps. But, those of you that go to church get that, I can. But anyway, so then I was like, okay, that's who I am. And has anybody in here seen the movie Chariots of Fire, the old one? Okay. It's so great. And if you haven't watched it in a while, it's worth a rewatch. And I would love to talk to the director about this, as I don't know how intentional it was, but there's a line in the movie. There's a scene in the movie. Did I share this last time I was here?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, great. I do a lot of podcasts, and you don't want to share all your stories every time. But there's a scene in the movie, and it's based on the life of Eric Liddell, who was a real guy and one of the great runners for England. And he and his sister had accepted the call to go to China as missionaries. But he's also made the Olympic team. And he's the favorite for the gold. And so he tells his sister, in this scene, he breaks the news to her that I've made the team and I'm going to go. And she gets upset at him because she's like raring to get to the mission field. And I'm paraphrasing, but he looks at her and he says, we will go. Yes, we've been called. I've been called. But then he says this, he goes, but God made me fast. And then he says, when I run, I feel his pleasure. And when you can figure that out, what is that thing that when you do it as a professional, because I'm looking and talking to professionals, when you do that thing, you feel God's pleasure. And whether you're a person of faith or not, don't get hung up on that. The idea here is that what he was saying is, I'm doing the thing I was created to do.
Well, that's what we need to do, okay? Let's give a mic drop for that. Hey, listen, again, raise your hand if you're seeking opportunities right now. You're in the career search. Look at that. Listen, these people need your help, Ken.
Okay, let's go.
You know what I'm talking about?
I'll stop talking about me and let's help them.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'd much rather do that.
So I want to dive into your book, because this is like, we're getting a sneak peek.
That'll help them.
You know what I'm talking about? We're getting a sneak peek. So let's talk about this. There's a guide in here. There's an assessment. Can you tell us about the assessment?
Yeah, it's called the Get Clear Career Assessment.
What makes it different from other career assessments?
Well, first of all, it's not a personality profile.
Okay. And
I'm all for personality profiles, but your personality has very little to do with your actual calling. Your personality speaks to how you do something, how you act when you're squeezed or when you're, feeling the juice, know. And so it's not personality. It measures 3 things: talent, what you do best. So you're familiar with StrengthsFinder.
Yep.
I mean, it has that same component. It's going to give you the same information. But we go 2 steps further. StrengthsFinder stops at strengths. And I think it's short-sighted to only be super aware of what you do well. It's like knowing, okay, I got these tools, but now what's the thing that I like doing the best with these tools? And so we measure passion. We call that work that you love. So it measures that. And then the third thing it measures, this is super important, what results motivate you. So all work creates results. So I did all this research on the psychological, intrinsic motivational factors, right? So there's 6. And so we've got that baked into the assessment. And so if you know what you do best, think of talent as power tools. You know the work that you really enjoy doing. You get lost in it. You look forward to it, all of that. And then you know what results you want to create through this work that you do well. So this is what it looks like. When you use what you do best to do what you love, to produce results that matter to you, you are on purpose.
You're on fire.
You are doing the thing that you were created to do, and people will marvel at you.
And when you do that and you get a little bit of this,
right?
You see what I'm saying?
Well, let me explain the money piece.
This comes with it.
Your ability to make money is predicated on you doing the thing that you were created to do. So there we go. Yeah, that's always so jarring.
We talked about this before you got here, how it surprised you the first time.
Yeah, the first time it was like gunshot.
It's not a surprise, but it's just got a really unique quality to it. I like it. Keep doing it.
Hey, we're different.
I like it,
We're
man.
different.
You got to be different.
We're
I like
different.
it. But to this money thing, the more you grow, the more your paycheck will grow. And your ability to grow is limited if you aren't doing the thing that you were built to do. In other words, we have a society where we've been taught to work on our weaknesses. But it's the biggest bunch of crap I've ever heard in my life. It makes no sense. And let me explain this. I'm below average in math and science. I think when I'm dead, I might dedicate my brain to science because I fully believe that part of the brain, whichever side it is really not firing at all. I'm not kidding you. I'm terrible at it. So why would I work really, really hard in math? What's the point? It drove my mom and dad nuts.
Especially when you have ChatGPT. What's right?
Right.
I mean, come on.
Well, we didn't have that back in my day.
Shoot.
Right. But as a student, look at this, parents. So here's what we do. We freak out when our kids bring home C's and D's. And we focus on the C's and D's. That's what society has taught us to do as parents. When what we ought to be doing as parents is focusing on the A's and B's. We're trying to figure out the Y's to the C's and the D's. I'll tell you the Y's. They either suck at it or don't care about it.
That's
right?
True.
But if you,
there it is.
There it is.
Yeah, at the base.
If you get, but if I dig into the B's and the A's, now I've learned something about my kid. Why are you getting an A in this class, but a D over here? Could be as simple as they got a jerk teacher in that D class. Now we learned something. Wait a second. Now we help them learn something about themselves that maybe helps them choose the kind of leadership that they follow down the line. Here's my point. We spend too much time on weaknesses when we ought to just be figuring out those early on, learn what they are, and go, great. I ain't going to get paid for that. I'm going to get paid for my strengths. And so that's the idea.
Well, what I love about this, okay, because I've never seen this before.
So the assessment's an 18-minute assessment. It's going to give you the results on all 3 of those.
I've never seen this before. I thought that was so cool. There's a little tear out, okay? You tear this out. It gives you a unique code so you can take the assessment for free, right?
And here's the results you get. You're going to get a deep dive report on your top 3 talents, top 3 passions, and then your primary mission. Now, that missional piece is super important because it helps you see what gets you out of the bed on Monday morning. And, no one can motivate you. No leader in the world can motivate you. They can manipulate you.
Can I tell you something?
You certainly can. It's your
so,
show.
So I normally go to bed at 9 o'clock at night, right? And
Really?
I get up at 5 a.m. every morning.
Okay.
But this morning, you talk about getting up on Monday morning.
Yeah.
I woke up at 3 a.m. Right? There was no going back to sleep.
Right.
It was on.
You were ready to go.
I'm ready to go.
And so this is the idea of, if you can figure out what motivates you, what's your missional driver?
Mm-hmm.
This is psychology, And so if you figure that out, you go, oh, okay, so I need to be doing work that creates this result.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm doing that, I essentially have this magnet that is pulling me forward, and it will separate you from the pack. You will be promotable, and that's the idea. So the more I'm growing, the bigger my paycheck is getting.
How many people do you think are not aligned with their purpose and their mission and their calling and all of that? How many people do you think it is? I mean, because you do call-ins all the time. Like, how many people do you think are doing the work that they're not designed to be doing?
Almost 70%.
Wow.
That's not my opinion. That's data from Gallup. The last decade, we've seen the results in about 68% of working Americans are what they call disengaged.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm sorry, that's not true. Are not engaged. The disengaged are these people that hate the job. A lot of people who are thankful for their job, they don't hate their job, but they're not engaged. And so when they're not engaged, they're just kind of doing the basics. They're trying not to get fired, but they're not engaged, doing their best, caring about the result. And so that's the number that it's been for about a decade. And that's, again, because there's alignment is off. They might be good at their job, but they may not love it. They may be good at the job, like parts of the job, but there's no value connection to the result.
So what would you say to somebody, because we get this all the time too, where you have somebody who is coming from a employer where they're dissatisfied, and they're going to the same career field, right? They're like, this is what I'm trained for. This is all I know.
Yeah, I'm in IT. I got let go at IT, and now I'm going back to IT.
Right. What would you
I hate
say
it,
there?
but I'm going
do
back.
The assessment, like, is there a systemic problem deeper than that?
Yeah, well, we need to look at why we're leaving the job. Are we leaving a leader? Are we leaving a culture? Are we leaving a position that's boring? So we need to get to the why. Mm-hmm. So why are we leaving?
Yeah, do you actually hate the thing, or is it the people, or is it the culture?
Might be in the right seat on the wrong bus.
Man,
oh, here we go.
But
don't throw the jar. So we need to figure out. So this is a real problem, because people know they aren't happy, but if they don't know why they aren't happy, then what is essentially happening is they're not running to something, they're running away from something.
Mm-hmm. That's so good.
And I want you to run to something. I think you'd be better off staying where you are than risking
the
unemployment, risking the interruption of income. I'd rather you stay and be mature enough to go, this sucks, but it's stability, and in the face of uncertainty, I need stability.
Amen.
But if you are uncertain and unstable, you've got yourself a cocktail of some real nasty emotions. And my goodness, when you're trying to get clear, you need to be as healthy as possible. So I coach people a lot. Look, if you don't want to be bebopping around and hopping from one thing to the next, or you don't want to risk that financial and emotional damage, which, by the way, affects our relationships and everything else, sit tight, be mature, sit in the suck long enough to go, I need to figure out why this sucks. Now, once I know why it sucks, I can solve for that problem.
Well, solving to the problem, I love that you said that, because I go in a circumstance myself where I've been in some suck, right, within my industry.
Yeah.
Right. I've been going through some issues, and I found out that actually my biggest opportunity is going through that. I need to go through that.
Yes.
No, I need to go through it. It's
course.
making me a lot stronger, and now I have something that I can help others who are going through the same thing, right? Because this is the way I look at it. Anytime you're faced with a challenge, there's somebody ahead of you that's gone through it, there's somebody right now going through the very same thing, and there's
right.
somebody behind you who's going to come through it.
Right.
And so if you're going through it right now and it sucks, it's challenging, can you figure out a way to create a process, a system, a solution, a product? Can you figure out a way to create a business model around helping the next guy make his life easier?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and I'm reminded of an old story, an old parable of an old man walking down a country road. He's walking along a fence line, and he's just meandering, enjoying his stroll, and he sees a wiggle off to the side through his peripheral vision. He looks at it, and he sees that it's a plant, and the motion on the plant is a cocoon. And he looks a little closer, and he sees two little butterfly legs poking out the bottom of that cocoon. And he sees it struggling mightily. And he watches for a second, continues to struggle. And then the legs stop moving. And he waits for it, and sure enough, the legs start struggling again. Well, now he's invested. And he's beginning to feel for this butterfly that's struggling to get out of the cocoon. So he does what many of us would do, and we want to relieve people from their struggle and help them. So he leans down, and he gently opens the cocoon. When he does, the butterfly flutters for a moment, falls to the ground, and dies seconds later. And it's in that moment that the old man realizes, in his desire to relieve the butterfly from the struggle, he robbed it of the strength it needed to be the butterfly, the beautiful creature. So we've got to start to shift our mindset when we are going through a struggle. It does suck. And of course, nobody wants to struggle, but it doesn't matter. You're in it. So you have two options. You either struggle with the struggle and just go, oh, I'm trying to survive, or you flip it and you go, this struggle is not against me. This struggle is for me. I'm going to come out on the other side, and it is going to give me the strength I need to be the best version of me.
Amen.
And that's a fact. And that resistance is all it is. If you, anybody ever buy one of those Pelotons? Nobody in here cares about, no. So I did. Did you buy one? Did you buy one?
Yeah, my wife has one.
So I bought one. I got into it for a while, and I really liked it. And so on the Peloton, they give you 3 things on your screen. And there's a knob on there that you can turn while you're riding. You know, it's got a knob. And the trainer, you're doing a class on, and they would tell you, all right, turn your resistance up. And you would turn a knob, and it would make it harder to pedal. And the reason that we would always turn the resistance up is greater performance. We're trying to get that heart rate up, burn more calories. And I remember sitting there one day going, this is what life is like.
100%.
We just got to go, look, when I'm in a season of resistance, I'm going to embrace that and go, come on, let's go. On the other side of this resistance, my little spindly legs are going to have some shape to them.
Absolutely.
Or whatever it is.
It makes it actually easier because you're going to go through it either way, right? You're going to go through the situation either way.
Well, not true. Some people, and here's my point, they let the struggle happen to them instead of happening to them. So, yes, eventually maybe it abates and it kind of chills, but you're not stronger.
But the point I was
trying to make, because you didn't actually fight through the struggle. You just kind of existed.
Well, my point that I was making was that your perception of that struggle, if you're sitting here going, man, this sucks. Oh, my God. I hate, because, listen, I've talked with a lot of job seekers, okay, and not in this room, okay, but I've had a lot of job seekers with them, their life is miserable, their woe is me, everything is stress, and it's just, it's a beatdown, right?
Right.
And sometimes when I talk to them, I'm like, man, we got to flip that perception, okay? Let's look at this as an opportunity to reinvent yourself. You hated your job before.
Right.
Can we reinvent yourself? Can we flip the perception here? Because, again, your focus is your reality, and if your reality is that your life sucks, well, then it sucks.
That's right.
You know, that story, too, what a great analogy or message for a parent.
Oh.
Man,
That's
phenomenal.
what's wrong with America today. We're raising a bunch of weaklings.
Yeah, and just how much we do for them that they should maybe be doing for themselves.
Oh,
so, yeah.
And
we grow up that way.
Listen, this is a true story. We have real documented stories I've shared on my show before of parents showing up to job interviews with their kids.
Oh, that's ridiculous. That makes me want to
unbelievable.
That makes me want to turn the show off. Just turn it off. Just turn it off.
Yeah. I don't want to take us down that because that'll give everybody indigestion. But
that's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, it's the coddling. It's the coddling that's gone on. And so what happens is you have stunted adults, and when they hit the real world and the first time they face hardship, you're not around, man, it's going to be trouble. And they don't know how to process it, you know? And I think that we've got to teach kids that failure is not fatal.
Yeah, like scratch your knees up a little bit. Fall.
Dude, when I was a kid, first of all, this country started going downhill. And everybody thinks right now I'm going to make a political statement. I'm not. This is an equipment statement.
Ooh, let's go.
You ready for this?
Let's go.
America started to go downhill with the rise of the bike helmet. Because, see, America can unite behind that.
Oh,
but
gosh.
Now, I'm not trying to offend anybody. So some of you may be offended right now. I would ask you to relax and see the truth behind the statement. When I was a kid, I grew up, I was born in 74, so I grew up in the 80s. So I was riding a bike in the 80s. Let me tell you something. The only pads that existed were on the bike. And they were so bad that if you hit, you still were going to hurt. And my parents weren't worried about, you know what it was? It wasn't like put a bike helmet on. It was don't be an idiot.
Yeah.
And like there's two different advices. Put your helmet on, and you give these kids a false sense of security. Let me tell you something. I didn't need a helmet. You know why? Because I did stupid stuff, and it taught me never to do stupid stuff again.
Hey.
And when you stick to the sheets for 3 nights, you pretty much learn the lesson.
Yep. I got a bald spot.
You know what I'm talking about?
I got a bald spot back here.
Like,
Right
I'm talking like no skin, and you turn over in the middle of the night. Ah! That's a lesson to not be an idiot.
Wow.
You want to teach somebody not to be an idiot? Then give them a chance to be an idiot.
Hey.
And you'd be really surprised how quick they'll learn not to be an idiot.
You know what? I want to piggyback on that. Okay, let me just tell you something.
I love talking about idiots.
I was an idiot, y'all. Okay, I was a straight up fool growing up. Let me just tell you something. I got in a lot of trouble.
I was too.
No. I mean like handcuffs. Lots of handcuffs. Okay. In and out of juvenile detention facilities. You know. I got a lot. But I burned that I burned my hand so many times. I said, I don't want to burn it anymore.
So it got to a point.
You know what I mean?
I'm done.
I'm done.
Yeah, good.
And
for
it's
you.
a decision.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
It just took you longer than others, but I mean that makes the point. And that's hard. And nobody wants to see you get there. But I mean to bring it all back in here for people that are searching, there's really nothing to be afraid of. Everybody else has got their own problems. Everybody else is living their own life. Go after it. Get after it. Try. Get rejected. Get back up. Get rejected. Keep going. Keep connecting. Keep putting yourself out there. And don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed. Shame is big in this. A lot of you, I know you feel shame. I just know it. And if I could set you free from that, you're not broken. You're not done. You're in a valley right now. But get that shame off of you, you know?
So in the vein of shame and people maybe trying to transition from industry, right? What would you say, what piece of advice or encouragement would you give somebody if they felt like they were lacking experience or qualifications, right, to do that?
Yeah, this is a really good question. So one of the tendencies that we humans have is to overestimate ourselves. And we'll look at job listings and we'll read a description, and our brain, the logic is going, I'm not qualified for that. But our heart goes, well, I don't know. I'm a pretty good person. I think I could talk my way into this. And we go for these things and we just get shut down. People go, you don't have the qualifications necessary. So then we start to pile on ourselves. I get this call on my show all the time and go, Ken, everywhere I go, they keep telling me I'm not qualified. I don't know what else to do. And I go, well, what's the job below that? The thing you've been going for, is there a rung on the ladder below that? And I know the answer is yes. But the way they present it is, everybody says I need experience, but how can I get experience if I can't get hired? Like, you're trying to get on the ladder too high up. I'm telling you every time, there's a rung down here that you don't want to get on. And
That's a pride thing, right?
100%.
Okay.
We think we're better than that lower rung. Well, here's the news. You're not. Because if it's and I'm addressing the experience question. So if it is an experience issue on the qualification, then you're going to have to swallow your pride and go get said experience. And I'm not a guy who's, preaching at you. I eat what I cook. And I'm very blessed now, to have a nationally syndicated show and co-host the Ramsey show, second largest radio show, blah, 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 blah. Here's the deal. My first gig was doing high school football play-by-play on the internet. There were 2 people listening, the kid next to me in the broadcasting school and my wife at home because she's a good woman. I once emceed an event where I introduced a mime, and I was so down about it. There were like 14 people out in the lawn. It was one of those town festivals. And I went to high-five the guy, and he mimed high-fived me. and after, right. And if that's not humiliating enough, the next act I introduced was a balloon animal artist.
Wow.
So don't come whining to me about you can't get experience.
Yeah.
I started out and that's just 2 stories. I did some stuff that was just lonely and hard and humiliating, but it got me to where I am.
Hell yeah. Let me ask you a question. Okay, so you did all of that. You've put in the work, okay? And then how did that relationship formulate with Dave? Where did that come about?
Yeah, so I volunteered to start a podcast for John Maxwell.
Okay.
That's the other thing, by the way. Be willing to work for free sometimes. And boy, you say that to Gen X and they just get their little fannies in the air like, I didn't say that you work for free your whole life, but like if there's not a budget to pay you, but you can do some work to get in and get some experience, do it. So I started a podcast for John Maxwell's leadership organization, and it became like within 6 months one of the top podcasts in all of the Christian world. And we were like doing it in a broom closet. And through that, it grew and grew and grew. I was one of the MCs of the event. Dave comes, and I ended up, after he spoke, did a keynote, I interviewed him for about 20 minutes in front of 12,000 pastors. And it was in that moment where I think we knew each other, but not super well. But I think he was like, this dude can hang. And so he...
Get in the room. That's what I'm hearing. Get in the room.
If you want to impress a Dave Ramsey, figure out a way to get on stage with him and 12,000 people watching you.
1,000.
And you do a good job, and now he's going, Coleman's got the chops. And so it was about 3 years later where he asked me to come join the team. So he had already seen me at a big-time level, and he had seen me do it. He'd heard my interviews. He knew I was good. And so it was just... proximity principle.
And you wrote a book on that, right? So
I did. It was my first bestseller, and I'll be honest with you, I still think it's my favorite book. Books don't have feelings, so I can say that, But it's my favorite book because I think it's the simplest success principle that I could possibly teach. And to shorten it up, it just says, in order to do what I want to do, I got to get around people that are doing it and get in places where it's happening. In other words, the right people plus the right places. If I do that enough, get around the right people, get in the right places, opportunity comes up to me and goes, these people go, I can't catch a break. I can't. Well, let me tell you something. You do it right, opportunities come to you when you least expect it.
100%.
Show up on your front door and you're like, what? And if I can be honest with my faith, that's when God goes, all right. Because he can get the credit. And I could tell you story after story after story in my life where anybody that knows me goes, Coleman had nothing to do with that. And God gets the glory. And so I think when we step out, God steps in. But we're waiting on God, and God's going, that's not how this works. That's what I think.
No, I believe it 100%. I've seen it. I had an experience, met John Gordon this past weekend at a conference, and it was just one of those dots connecting, and he'll be on this stage very soon. And so
tell him I said hello. We're old buddies.
He's amazing. That guy was so much fire. And so I'm at the conference, right? And I'm like, I just beelined up to him, like, dude, I have to share you with my audience because he was just fire. And so one thing connects to the next. But the point is to get in the room, to be around the people that are doing what you want to be doing, right?
That's exactly right. That's where I learn. That's where I get an opportunity to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives me another connection. See, it becomes a cycle. When I'm around those people, I'm learning. I'm always asking questions. And then they're going to tell me something I need to do. And I'm going to go do that. And then before I leave or I can circle back, they're probably going to connect me someplace else.
Yep.
Listen, the key to professional success are those three things. Every week, you need to get quiet on a Sunday night and go, what's the one thing I need to learn this week? What's the one thing I need to do this week? Who's the one person I need to connect with this week? Now, this is about advancing. I'm not talking about your normal job, but like as a personal. So here's the deal. When I'm growing personally, I'm advancing professionally. It's not the other way around. It's not the other way around. Don't look for your professional growth to grow you as a person. Grow personally, and that will lead to advancing professionally. And so what do I need to learn this week? What do I need to do? And who do I need to connect with? And if you come to Nashville, I mean, we got this culture of cigars and bourbon, and it's a connection thing.
Well, on that note,
like everybody is connecting all the time. I'm in a group of guys on Friday afternoons, every Friday. Don't tell Dave. I leave a little early, and I go to this group, and it's called Holy Smokes. It's a true story. It's great. It's great.
I love it.
Holy smokes. It's an international cigar community. And it's a lot of good guys. And we're sitting there, and while we're smoking, we're just connecting, man. And stuff is happening.
So it's
stuff is, collaboration.
It's who you know is what I'm hearing. It's the connection, right?
It's all who you know.
It's all who you know.
Nobody cares what you know.
Man, well, shoot, right?
I don't think so. I don't really.
So you know a guy though. I know you know a guy. You know a guy named Ken Coleman. You know him, right?
I do.
You know him, right?
Unfortunately, very well.
You know that guy. He's a pretty cool guy. I seen him on this show and everything. I was like, dang, he's got his own show called the Ken Coleman Show.
Right.
Man, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
What do I got to do to get on the Ken Coleman Show? You guys want to see me on the Ken Coleman Show? You know him, right? Because I kind of heard that you knew.
Yeah. Well, you got to make it. You got to make the cut.
Yeah. What do you think, man? Let's go.
Well, I mean, he asked me, so
let me ask you a question. Job seekers in the house, raise your hand. All right. Am I making an impact?
I know you're making an impact.
All right.
But we got a process. I got a producer. I got an associate producer. I got a brand leader, and we run like this. We've got this
machine.
It's like a sifting process to go who we having on at this current format of the show.
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of guests because it's more of a coaching model. But the reality is you've never asked, or have you? Have you asked me?
Ken, can I be on the Ken Coleman Show?
Okay. So now what we got to do is we got to submit it, and then I'm going to put in a good word and go, he's a really good dude. He was bold. I love it.
Yes.
But now here's the truth part.
Yeah.
This is the truth. You all ready? Do you think he's ready? My publicist, Kurt, who walked in here, the fabulously handsome bald guy with the books.
Mm-hmm. Love that guy.
Kurt can tell you this. He pitches me all the time to podcast.
Yeah.
I'm a 2-time, soon to be 3-time best-selling author. I could go down the list of all my things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
My resume in that category, it's got a lot more on it than yours.
Sure it does.
All right, stay with me.
Yeah.
I got podcasts that turn me down all the time too.
But didn't you also you were doing the MC for the meme people too, right? That's where you started.
The meme people?
The mime, right?
No, but
that's where you started.
But I'm trying to teach you through this.
Yeah.
My point is there are podcasts right now that they're not saying yes to me yet because they don't think that I'm the right guest for their show.
They may not think later.
They may not think I'm big enough. I'm just telling you. Huh? I know. So here's my point. I love that you asked. We got to look at it and talk about it. We got to go because we put you through a process. We go, okay, what are you going to talk about? Mm-hmm. What are you bringing to the table? What's your audience size? What's your platform size? It's all that stuff. And my point is, I love that you asked, and you got to keep asking. But it may be an answer where we go, you need to do this, this, and this to play ball here. I don't know that.
That would be great.
That's all I need to know.
But
that would be great.
But my point is that happens to me now. Is what I'm getting at. Mm-hmm. I'm just keeping it real. Like,
Yeah.
Sometimes people go, well, he he doesn't have this many Instagram followers, or I'm just telling you, it happens all the time. Kurt could totally back me up. So I'm encouraging you.
Send me through the process.
You're going to get in.
Love it.
And I'm going to recommend you.
That's my man there.
But I also want to shoot you straight.
I appreciate that.
Because we're going public. Boy put me on the spot.
I know.
And so I love that. I love that. But that's the other side of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I appreciate that.
It's not a guarantee.
No, I don't need no guarantee. I need an opportunity.
I get pitched
opportunity, not a guarantee. I don't need no handouts.
All right. So how do you get the opportunity? Is it just the ask?
No. No. It's those qualifications. It's the skill. It's all that thing you were talking about.
You got to keep showing up.
Absolutely.
Keep delivering results.
100%.
Keep going and going and going. I remember the first time the proximity principle came out, I didn't get as many big podcasts as I did my second time around. And then it was after my second best-selling book that I got an email out of the blue one day to be on View from the Top, which is a big NPR, you know, How I Built This with Guy Raz. It's one of the biggest podcasts in the world. Well, he's got another podcast called View from the Top, and he wanted to interview me. But that was like 5 years in. So, yes, ask. When you hear a no, if you hear a no, it is not here or it is not now. It is not no.
That's a great lesson for y'all to be hearing right now. I need you to hear that.
Just it's like the mouse.
Because I'm applying for the job. You see what I'm saying?
I love it.
You hear me? I'm applying for the job right now. Okay? And sometimes you don't hear back. Sometimes you don't get that automatic yes, right?
What does the mouse do when it's going for the cheese in the maze and it hits a wall? What's the mouse do? Does it just leave? Start crying?
Stops and looks around.
Keeps moving towards the cheese, baby.
What did I tell y'all? The money is in the what? It's in the follow-up. It's in the follow-up, right? You got to keep showing up, keep following up, all right? That's where the money is. It's in the follow-up. So I will definitely follow up. I want to know what it takes to get on the Ken Coleman show because I got a few friends that have been on there, and I've been watching your show.
Oh, yeah?
And I've been emulating.
Who are your friends?
Amberly Lago. She was actually the one that connected me to you. Yep, she connected us. I don't know if she's been on.
She has not been on.
She hasn't been on the show, but you've been on hers, right?
I've been on her show.
That's how we connected.
And but we can do an Instagram live.
Let's do it.
How about we do that?
We could do that.
How about you shoot my team some points and what we could do for 15 minutes and let's test it out.
That right there is an interview. You like that? That's an interview. You see what I'm talking about?
And a negotiation.
No. That's an interview. Let's go.
I like this boldness. I'm going to have you on my show, and then in front of people, I'm going to ask you if I could be on your show.
Absolutely. Let's go. It's all about who you know. Look at him. He's like, I don't know if I like that.
Oh, I'm all good with it, brother.
No, I appreciate you, man.
As long as you're good with the answers.
Oh, I'm.
And I think it's a really
1,000.
good. I think it's a really good example, you know, of testing the waters. You know, seeing where you stand. You know, and then being okay if somebody goes. And again, I could tell you big name podcasts that you guys know. And by the way, they've been on my show. But then when we pitch them, they're very polite about it. Because they're like, and they're full of crap. Because I know I can bring the heat. And I've done it on big shows. And so, but my point is like, I'm a person.
Yeah.
And it irritates me a little bit. But I quickly flush that and go, You know what? Here's what I know. God's in the details. Mm-hmm. And I'm not supposed to be on that show for some reason. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And that's really important because there are times where you all are going to get no's when you are the best candidate.
How many of you gone through that before? Ooh-wee.
Come on, man. What's wrong with people, man? And I just, I choose to look at that and I go, how is it possible that I'm the best candidate or that I should be on this show, that I know I could add value or whatever, and it didn't happen? What am I supposed to learn from that? What am I supposed to do with that? And I think if you can do that, it gets you out of the victim mentality. Mm-hmm. And you realize that no just got you closer to the yes you're looking for.
100%.
You know what? You also brought up something, though, there, which is, I think, and you guys in the audience, let us know how you feel about this. We're not always taking a moment to be introspective about what's going on. Right, it's especially if we're in a job search, we're in a jam, that's right, good. And we're just packing as much in as we can.
That's good.
And so, I see this all the time. People, we got to stop at some point and say, okay, what am I doing that's not working, or what am I doing that's working, right? And we don't always stop and take that. Some of us don't even track our interviews.
Yeah. Shame on you if you're not doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you got to be able to be willing to take the rejection, right, and learn from the rejection, and understand, like you, to your point, it takes a few no's to get to the yes, right? It takes a few. So, listen, I'm all good, man. This has been awesome, ladies and gentlemen. Ken Coleman, let's go. Woo!
Thank you,
man. I appreciate you, seriously. Always bringing the heat. And I'm out of mics, man. I just want to throw the bowl in there. Guys, that's the show. It's all about who you know. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Who You Know Show podcast. My name is Trevor Houston, and if you've enjoyed this episode, consider subscribing wherever you listen and leave us a positive review to help us keep the mics on in the studio. Until next week, that's the show. It's all about who you know.